I, okay. All right. Anyway, this is me. So these are some of the things we're going to try and zip through here. We're going to just talk about some fundamental social media things, making sure everybody's on the same page with what we're talking about. And then we're going to talk about how to develop a strategy using this to support your particular organization and kind of developing it around your needs. Kind of talk a little bit about some of the different tools that are out there that might help make it a little bit easier. And then how to actually put it into play, because there are some hiccups that can happen if you're not careful. All right. This is all sort of, educational, academic stuff, just to kind of explain that we're all aware that social media is text, it's video, it's images, and it's all about networking and connecting people together around a common interest or some sort of cause that everybody has a support for. Increasingly, more and more, the content is getting to be more visual. It used to be that we would put up 126, then it went to 140 characters on Twitter, but now more and more people are relying on visual. And it's freaking all of the people like us out because we don't necessarily have the time to create that kind of content. So we'll kind of discuss how we might do that. Let's see. Yeah, the value in the kind of work you do, and I'm kind of lumping all kind of nonprofits, social, community-supported organizations together because they all deal with a lot of the same struggles. Social media can really help to build awareness of your organization and what you do, and more importantly, create engagement with your audience, which you don't normally get, right? I mean, all the young people, they all know this, right? We'll assume anyway, but for people like you and I, it's really difficult to try and put out material there that actually connects to one another and to get someone to actually respond. So the engagement piece is pretty difficult. I mean, I shouldn't say difficult, but it can really be based on your willingness for transparency and honesty and to try and build engagements. Think about it as you are just simply building a relationship with someone one-on-one. What kind of things would you find interesting? Would it be data? Would it be facts and figures? Or would it be a day in the life? Kind of consider the things that you find interesting in a personal conversation and think about how you can translate that into a digital platform like this. Let's see. Yeah, no, I think we'll move on. All right, this is kind of the bulk of it. One of the primary things when you are trying to develop a strategy for your organization is figuring out what are you trying to achieve out of this? What does success look like? What are your goals? If your goal is to increase your following by 10 followers a week, that's a measurable goal. It gives you a timeline. It allows you to kind of figure out, first of all, if it worked or not, because at the end of the week, if you have 10 new followers, great. If not, you can revise and kind of figure out what your goal should be. It's a constant revision. But it may be something a little less tangible. Like, we have a lot of different nonprofits that work in the social organizations that are trying to decrease poverty or homelessness. What does that look like? You can't necessarily take those big picture items and look to change the world with a social media post. We all get viral things once in a while, but you can't plan on those things, right? Like the Ice Bucket Challenge, those are kind of once in a lifetime things. So thinking about smaller, short-term, measurable goals about what your social media program needs to accomplish for your particular organization. And it's going to be different for everybody. And it should be something that Anybody that has access to post on your particular pages must all have the same messaging, the same voice, the same approach. You want that consistency. You know, if you've got two different people with wildly different views of the world, they're likely going to have different ways to translate and message out the same idea. Part of your planning, part of your policy is ensuring that consistency. And that's largely going to come from the top down, because it's not necessarily up to your social media manager to define that. That comes from the leadership and in helping to define who this organization needs to be. And then it's up to whoever's doing the social media to help implement that. Does that make sense? Yeah. Yeah, we'll move on. Goals are kind of one of the primary things about developing that plan, kind of figuring out, like I said, what does success look like for this particular program. And then in talking about establishing your organization's voice, I mentioned before about being honest and transparent. I think we have a couple of different things. Yep. Make sure that you're actually active. Are you engaging in the conversation, or are you just putting a post out once a month because you're supposed to? You know, if you're talking to somebody face to face and all of a sudden they're just quiet, are you going to continue with that relationship? So ensure that you can actually engage in a conversation on a regular basis. Make sure that it's interesting. You know, like I said before, if all your, and I work in an academic research institute. If all I were going to do is put out data about the nonprofit sector, nobody's going to listen.
Is that part of the 70-30 rule, where maybe 70% of the stuff you put out is content that would engage your audience, and the other 30% would be, like you're saying, the academic?
Gold star. He gets a gold star. Yeah, it's one idea of how to approach this, is that, as he said, 70% of what you put out can be fun and engaging. A little 60-second video of one of your employees talking about a day in the life of. And then if you have, say, a particular program that is really looking to, that has meat to it, that you really want to engage and provide a lot of information, then maybe 30% of your overall posting can be more focused on the day-to-day, on the real tough issues, more or less. But you know, social media, we call it social media for a reason. I can't stress enough that it really is about those relationships. You're not just out there putting out a signboard of this is our Facebook page and we have a representation here. You know, that's a billboard. That's nothing more than a billboard. It's promotion, that's great, but you're not going to gain a community of support approaching it like that. Okay? Interesting, I mean, that's, in some ways, that's left to the eye of the beholder, right? But I find that particularly in the social sector, the general public is fascinated about the day-to-day. You know, they understand that you're working on projects or a particular mission, but what does it take to do that? Most people don't know. If they don't work in your field, I'm clueless about what you guys do. Well, kind of. I have some involvement with PBS, so a little bit of it. But for the most part, that's what people are kind of looking to engage with and understand more. And if there's something in there that they can connect to, that they find engaging and interesting, they're more likely to continue that relationship. Be humble. I don't think, this is always kind of funny to me. Avoid being overconfident about social media skills. I look at, you know, there is a certain generation that will never say that. But at the same point, I think the point is that you want to listen to your audience. You don't necessarily want to be out there dictating from the ivory tower about, you're the expert. You need to listen and engage in the conversation. Yeah, and be comfortable. Social media can be expensive. It can also be incredibly cheap. If you do it well, you don't necessarily have to spend a ton of money on ads or boosted posts or anything like that. I think that the more you use it, the more comfortable you'll get, and the more you'll understand how it all plays out. Honesty, mentioned that before. Transparency. I mean, we've all probably been on social media to some degree. You know when you're being BS'd, right? You know when people are just kind of feeding you a line that makes it all exciting and interesting, and someone, maybe a friend, posts things that makes their life sound absolutely wonderful, beyond any sense of reality. You know that. Your followers will too. So, like I say, that kind of honesty and transparency, that openness, that willingness to open yourself, will, in many ways, you'll find, I believe, that your followers will be more respondent, is that a word? The more likely to respond to what it is you're trying to accomplish. Respectful, I think that goes without saying. Obviously, we're in a very divisive time for many reasons, and being respectful, there's a time and a place for the arguments, a time and a place for dealing with trolls or fighting back. Particularly as a professional organization, that's not the time or place, because you are representing your organization, period. Unique, yeah. What is it about your organization that makes you unique? Different from the stations in maybe a different part of the state. Is there anything? Yes, you're working with your particular location. That makes you unique. So how can you stress that? Just an example. And then positive, kind of, again, looking up, looking towards the future, looking towards what success looks like, really kind of, even if you don't feel like it, we all have that sometimes. Going to kind of skip over this because we touch on it again, but one of the primary point here is to consider, again, it's pointing to the fact that you're speaking for the organization. A lot of the guidance should come from the top down about how you're representing the organization as a whole, but again, ensuring that everybody is delivering the same message. I always say, just as a kind of a sidebar here, that when it comes to the nonprofit world in fundraising, a lot of people hate the idea of fundraising, of asking for money. But I always argue that if you work at that organization, you're a fundraiser, period. Because you have the potential to influence a potential donor's perception of your organization. So you may not have that in your title, you may not get getting paid for it, but you're a representative of the organization, whether it's in fundraising, whether it's in social media. So just making sure that this is where policies come in, all of that, but making sure that everybody is representing the same ideas. Donor engagement. Thinking about how to connect donors versus just supporters, we like to think about social media as driving an action, driving some sort of action whether it's a like, whether it's a share, whether it's a comment, or clicking through to make a donation to your website, whatever the case may be. The goal is some sort of response. If they're just reading it, you largely don't really have much of an idea how that's happening, although Stephanie will talk a little bit more about that, I believe, and all of the analytical stuff. But one way to kind of pursue that is to keep the relationship open-ended, ask questions, ask for responses, opinions, open-ended statements that might engage a response, just as you would in one-on-one, right? Just like that. For those people that nodded their head. Yeah, calls to action. That's the phrase I was looking for, rather than just an action. It's totally acceptable to post something that says, if you know a friend who is interested in this, share it with them. Please let them know, or whatever the case may be, to help engage that action. We kind of put this under donor engagement for now, but it can be in any capacity, really. Okay. Continuous, again, that goes back to being active, kind of making sure you're always there. If somebody posts a comment, how long does it take you to respond? Or do you respond? You should always do something. Again, if you ask somebody a question and they just sit there, are you going to continue the conversation? Of course not. It's the same on social media. Even if it's as much of the organization coming back and liking their comment on Facebook or whatever the case may be, that's a return engagement.
If I can just give an example real quick.
Uh-huh.
I posted on Palermo's website, which you're probably familiar with, or their Facebook page, sorry. I said,
Oh, the pizza place?
Yeah, Palermo's. I said, God, I really love your new pizza.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, it's like David Portnoy 8.2, whatever, I didn't get any. I thought I would at least get a coupon for 10% off. I mean, would that be a good?
That's actually legitimate. I mean, there are companies that do that. Obviously, Palermo needs to buff it up a little bit, but even to not respond, I think is shameful, especially for a company that size that has a marketing department. If you're a small nonprofit and you have one person wearing 3 hats trying to juggle all these balls, it's more understandable. It's still not good, but it's more understandable. But if a place like Palermo lets it slide, that's shameful. Sorry. Okay, reaching the people that you want to reach is a challenge. There's no doubt, because there are so many things that are pulling people's attention. They can look in a million different directions. How do you get them to look at you? First of all, you want to define as clearly as possible, who is it that you're trying to attract? Who is your target audience? We talk in social media or in marketing about building personas. Literally writing down a definition, a description, an identity for a sample of your target audience. It's a Latina in her 20s, working, whatever the case may be, really defining who your people are. What income bracket are they in? What fields do they work in? And really clarifying that for yourself to understand who it is you're trying to connect with. And that will help you a lot, especially as you think about the kind of content that person might find interesting. If you are going to go into ads, boosted posts, it will definitely help you there, because you can actually target those ads to those kind of specific demographics. But having a clear vision of that is going to make things so much easier for you. We talked about engagement and really making sure you're there and a part of the conversation, right? And in terms of growing a community, I think in setting goals for growth, I think it's all about being realistic. If you want 1,000 people to start following you in a month, how realistic is that for the community you're in, for the field you're in, for the reach of your organization? How realistic is that? Think in those terms about setting those goals for either increasing your market or increasing overall engagement. Yeah, determining the platforms. as you develop those personas, you'll find that different age groups, different demographics are on different platforms. We all know this, like some of these young people over here, I'm assuming you're not really active on Facebook anymore. Exactly. Where some of the people over here, do you have TikTok accounts? Yeah? Awesome. I'm going to follow you. But you have to think about those demographics, and if you're trying to reach those people, where are they? There's plenty of information out there, Facebook and Twitter. They'll tell you who their primary demographics are, so it's pretty easy to find out. But make sure that as a nonprofit, as a social organization, my recommendation is everybody should be on Facebook and LinkedIn as a professional organization. Facebook is where most of the people with disposable income are going to be at right now. And professional accounts on LinkedIn, if nothing else for the networking possibilities alone, is fantastic. It's a great way to, first of all, find out what other people are doing in both cases, in your similar fields or in your similar positions. Snooping, scouting, that's what social media is about, snooping on everybody else, right? So it's, as you kind of develop your goals, look at organizations who are like you, either in, maybe some of the competing markets, similar markets, in this state or others. What are they doing in terms of social media? What seems to work, what doesn't? Don't just model it off of your own experience. Learn from somebody else as well. Talking about social media tools, everybody thinks about Twitter, Facebook, all of those. There are a number of other ways. I always recommend that if your organization has a blog or a news listing you might want to consider, where you provide updates on what your organization is doing, the programs you're doing, things you've got coming up, and then you're not trying to put all that information in a tweet. Just provide a link to learn more, and then have that repository of all this other information available. These are all definitions for graduate students. Let's see. Because I'm running out of time here. Like I say, everybody, with being on Facebook, these are just some extra tips, and I can make this available. Go ahead. Yeah.
Facebook, just like every other platform, changes. It's always changing, developing. Mm-hmm. But I'd say in the last 6 months, I'm getting like nothing but spam. It's just, is there something they're doing different or whatever? But
well, the algorithms change constantly. Funny, I gave a very similar presentation yesterday up in Appleton, and somebody said the same thing, that they're getting hit with all kinds of spam. Let me ask, is it spam on your social media account or email?
Oh, no, it's on Facebook. I'm admin for 2 groups and on 2 pages, and on my personal thing, of course. And I'll get probably 10 to 20 a day that it says I'm following them and I like their page, but first of all, it's in a different language.
Yeah. It is picking up where profiles are getting hacked and they're creating duplicate profiles on Facebook, for example. Obviously, you want to make sure whether you're already connected to them. If you're already connected to a page with that name, it's spam. One of the things I recommend once in a while, go look into your profile settings and defining your identity. Who you are, what your mission is, shake it up a little bit. Shake up the algorithm a little bit. You may find yourself backtracking a little bit in what you're getting, but it also messes with those spammers a little bit. as you put your profile in, you can say that you are a social service organization focusing on this or whatever the case may be. Find different wording just to shake it up a little bit.
I bring it up to say that I used to spend a lot more time on Facebook, and it's decreased and decreased. I just wonder if that's a trend as far as.
As far as the spam and that, it is increasing.
How much time do they spend on the platform?
Yeah, I think part of the problem is that a lot of people our age don't realize that you need to change your password pretty regularly. You get it set up and you think, it's good to go for the rest of my life. No, it's not. I recommend every 6 months, just go and change all your passwords, because that will at least help cut things back. Wanted to talk about Twitter, because especially in social organizations, community organizations, everybody's like, we have to be on Twitter. I argue, no, you don't. Twitter moves very fast. Most organizations do not have the staffing to manage that. And I would also argue a lot of the people you're trying to attract probably aren't on Twitter anyway, or they're not looking for something like this, like what you do there. They're going other places to find you. If you have the capacity to do that, great. But don't feel pressure that it's a platform you have to be on, okay, as a professional organization. LinkedIn. LinkedIn for nonprofits. Twitter has a nonprofit. Facebook has a nonprofit package. Definitely check into them, because there will be some reduced rates, additional training features, things like that. Definitely worthwhile. Okay. Putting it all into play. As we talked a little bit about some of this, but the content value, ensuring that there is some sort of engaging interest level to what you're posting. Think about different content types. It could be, you're promoting an event. Maybe it's just a picture of hang in there, kitty, or whatever. Making sure that you've got some variation in what you're posting. Your audience will find that a lot more interesting. And you don't have to come up with it all. It's totally okay for you to repost somebody else's content. That's what it's all about, is that sort of connection. If you follow a national account or people in your field and they're posting things that you think your audience is interested in, go ahead. We talked about choosing the platforms, finding where your audience is, scheduling. One of the things I'll tell you what I do in the morning, because we talk about, and I think I'm running over time, so I want to be respectful. But I think we can. This is all like administrative crap. What I do in the morning, I get up and get to my office, I get my cup of coffee, I sit down, and in the first 20 minutes, I look at my Feedly account. Feedly is an RSS manager where I follow over 150 something blogs and news sites, and I'll sit down with my coffee, look through them, scan the headlines, and see if there's anything I find interesting or pertinent. I actually manage 6 Facebook pages, 4 LinkedIn pages. There's a lot of different things, and I'm not gonna spend my whole day managing that. So I'll sit down and just go through the content, see if there are 4 or 5 things maybe that come out of that. I have Buffer, which is built into my browser. Click on it, automatically creates a post on any of the profiles I want. I edit it as I see necessary, and hit send. And I can even schedule it for a certain day, certain month, certain time of day to get it out there. Huge time saver with 3 free platforms, just to make that much easier. And there are a number of other ones out there. There's we talk about Buffer, there's Hootsuite, there's TweetDeck, there's all these. It's finding one that fits your personal interest is going to make all the difference. Any questions? Yeah.
LinkedIn, from a municipality standpoint, more specifically a police and a fire department, what are some strategies like you can use on LinkedIn for recruiting efforts?
What is your workplace like? What is your work environment? What is your team like? It's not just about salary. I mean, it is, but a lot of people are looking to find out learn about the work environment, and that's also a way to teach your broader community what it's like to be a policeman or a fireman, and kind of speak to. Obviously, if it's LinkedIn, you're taking a very specific perspective on it. But I find that one of the most interesting things that people look for on LinkedIn is what people are doing in the day-to-day. What are things that affect them and their work? What are some of the accomplishments they manage? If they have challenges, what are they? It is really about opening the door or whatever. Anything else? Great. I'm going to turn it over to Stephanie, who's going to talk a little bit more about the analytics behind trying to understand who your followers are. Okay. Are you plugging in? Okay. I will get this out of the way. This. Got it? Yeah, good.
All right, well,
I just wanted to say that I worked in Milwaukee at Managed Community Media, and Helen Bader Foundation gave us grants for several years. I wanted to say that we have a great organization.
I don't work for them. We're a grantee also.
Oh, okay.
They just gave us a ton of money many years ago. But I work closely with them on a lot of things. I think they're fantastic. Yes, sure.
Right.
all right, well, yeah, I'm going to try to go quickly, just so you guys have that half hour to network and stuff. But if you want to stick around, I'll probably just keep talking. We have a concert going on next door, it sounds like. So, yeah. But as Bryce said, I'm Stephanie Miller. I am with the Village of McFarland. I'm their Director of Communications and Technology. And just kind of tag teaming a little bit off of what Bryce was talking about and diving in a little bit more about improving your reach, specifically through the Meta Business Suite, and kind of understanding those insight tools and how to, oh, that's cool. Yeah, my Teams shows up, even though I turned off my notifications. Anyway, understanding insight tools to help grow your audience on Facebook and Instagram. So I just want to kind of gauge what my audience is here at the moment. Who here is a social media manager in some fashion? All right, cool. And so about half of us, maybe a little bit more. Hello? There we go. I don't do PowerPoints, so bear with me here. I wanted to start off a little bit with something I want to just remind people as we think about social media and growing ourselves within social media itself. So I really liked this quote from Lele Pons, who's a Venezuelan American artist, social media creator, influencer, if you will. And she said the best advice for anyone trying to grow on social media is to be real and to be consistent. People will connect more with you if you stay true to yourself and who you are. Create a schedule where you have a balance of pictures and videos that people will love. Just have fun with it and don't be afraid to take risks. Which I was like, this is exactly what I probably think about all the time as someone who's been in social media for doing social media management for over 11 years. Especially the taking risks and making sure you're just continuously having fun and seeing where the trends go. So just kind of keep all this in mind is being real and being consistent. So brief overview of what I'm going to touch base on is just talking about what reach is. It's something we talk about in terms of analytics and strategy all the time, and some people are like, what is reach? Like, So just giving that overview of and the different types of reach you get in social media. And then we'll jump into navigating the business suite and their insights. It's changing all the time. I feel like every month there's something new. As those of us who are social media managers, it's like we're trying to figure this all out all the time and retraining our brains, but such is the business. Talking about organic versus paid, and then just strategy for growth, which, some was already talked about with Bryce, and it's great that, it's such a broad subject, but sometimes it can be very narrow and something that, it all comes together at the same time. But I do want to mention a couple things that I'm not going to be talking about. I'm not going to mention how to go viral. That's not the purpose of today's talk. I'm not going to be talking about other social media platforms like TikTok and Snapchat, etc. That's just analytics that I'm still also exploring. And with the work that I've done, I haven't really had that experience to really dive into those yet. So wanted to talk on something I have quite a bit of confidence to speak on, if you will. I'm not going to be talking how to get a specific audience, but I will mention a little bit about that. And then I'm not going to tell you exactly what you need to post and when you need to do it. But I will help you and guide you in ways on, how you can figure out what's best for your platforms in terms of that. So just a little bit about me. Don't want you to think I'm some rando. I've already kind of talked about it. But Director of Communications and Technology for the Village of McFarland, which is just about 10-15 minutes southeast of here. So I live in Madison. I went here for school, got a communications arts degree with focus in radio, TV, and film. And I started working for the Village in 2016 as their communications specialist to create their social media presence. There wasn't anything at that time specifically for government and local government specifically to have a social media presence. That was something new and something that my director at the time said, we need to get on this train because it's kind of an easy way to, advertise for yourself and advertise what's going on in the community and getting that relationship and engagement involved within your community. So started doing that, as I said, in 2016. I was also a part of the branding initiatives. And then I took the director position, which also kind of ate up the communication specialist role as well back in 2018. So here we are now. I love name tags. And then I am a recent, got my first year in with the board of directors here with WCM and the chair of the Communications and Resources Committee. And lastly, I have 11 years of social media management experience. With all different types of organizations, as I mentioned, Village of McFarland, obviously right now, and then throughout college and other part-time work, UW Badger Band, Association for Women in Communications, and WCM, and additionally a couple other companies that got ate up by other companies, so I'm not going to even mention that at the moment. But so been working on that for a while. So as I mentioned, I wanted to just talk about reach and the different types. For those of us who don't know, I don't want to assume that you know what reach is. So there's two different types of reach. There's page reach, which is also total reach. This is specifically on Facebook Insights, but now because Facebook and Meta and Instagram, they're all one. They're all kind of putting those terminologies together. So if you do see Facebook, maybe look at it as like Meta as itself. But it's a metric that can tell you how many unique users looked at any content related to your Facebook page in a given time period. But on the flip side, we have post reach. So we got page and then post. And that's the number of unique viewers or users who saw a specific post you made. So within the post reach, there's organic and paid, which I will talk a little bit more about, but later on. But organic is just expecting the reach to go organically. You're not giving the man any money, right? You're not giving Mark Zuckerberg any more money because he does not need it. Although I do work, my primary not primary, but part of my work is to work on social media. I will probably say something, again, not nice about Mark Zuckerberg, but here we are. We still all use it. and maybe there will be something new in the future. But as I was saying, with paid reach, you're giving that company some money, right? But at the same time, you are growing that reach. You are getting more people to see who you are, who may have not known that you were on any social media platform that you're using. So there's definitely pros and cons to organic and paid. I'm always about organic, but I do see the value in paid sometimes when there is certain stuff that we really want to make sure as many residents and community members are seeing. So, navigating business suite insights. This is where I'm going to jump into the business suite right now, and we can just kind of walk through that. Stop, go away. Okay, this is the right size. It's like blown up on my laptop here. So, here's the village's primary, Facebook page. This is all probably familiar to y'all. I would love to show you Instagram, but we don't really have any way to project Instagram. So, sorry for the college students here. You're like, I don't use Instagram, or the Gen Zers, so I apologize. But we can look at Instagram in the Meta Business Suite, which is what I do want to briefly walk through. So, how many of you use this when you're doing your social media management? Excellent. So yes, this is something that's huge when it comes to looking at your analytics and your strategy and your overall insights. If you're only kind of working off of this page or maybe like your profile page, start changing that up. So making sure that you are coming to the business suite, especially if you do have multiple accounts that are under the Meta name, if you will. So, and essentially just kind of navigating it, as I was saying, you get your notifications, you get your inbox. Still take advantage of this. As Bryce was saying, you still need to be engaging with your audience. There are going to be certain things that may not fit your brand, that may not just work for you, but maybe you can still respond to them saying, hey, thanks for sharing, we'll do our best, or just try to continue to have that conversation with people, whether it's on Facebook, Instagram, what have you. So same thing as like when you're looking at the inbox is also showing like how people have reacted to stories. That is something that I guess I kind of forget because it is encompassed within Meta. Utilizing stories as a part of how you can advertise and get that engagement as well. There are people who are only looking at stories. They're only swiping that. They're only swiping left. They're not scrolling down. So making sure that all these pop-ups, I'm sorry. But if you're getting reactions, just give them a tap back. Just, double tap. Know that you've seen that they are reacting to this and continuing that engagement. And then I did want to kind of navigate a little bit more into the Meta Business Suite insights and utilizing this, especially when it comes to maybe working with board members or other staff members and going to data that's going to maybe help you or maybe not help you. Hopefully it does help you though. And kind of that return on investment, right? We want to make sure that if there are budget cuts coming or someone is saying we don't need a person doing X, right? We can maybe come here and say, well, here's actually what the numbers are saying. So unfortunately, my numbers over the past month, which is always going to be your, I guess like your default, you can definitely go ahead and change it. My Facebook page reach is a little bit down. Instagram is up though. And just kind of like looking at those different types of data and content. And the one great thing now that they have with Meta is in the business suite is they're here to help you, right? They're here to say, here's how you can improve your content, right? They just give it to you. You don't have to search. And kind of going off of that and making sure you're just connecting within all of these different types of insights and looking at your audience, seeing what your potential audience might be, how you can grow that, things of those nature. So, yes, sorry, I'm talking really fast, but I want to make sure to be respectful of everyone's time here. So, yeah, and just taking advantage as well when you're in your Meta Business Suite. If you're in your planner, you want to make sure that you are posting at certain times of when your audience is online. Now, you can go ahead and say, well, I don't have time to get that on at this point, or I have a village trustee breathing down my back saying, hey, you got to get that on Facebook, you got to get that on Facebook, you got to get that on Facebook. Well, strategically, it would be better if we did it at this time. No, I don't care, just put it up right now. Okay, fine. But that's not going to be your best reach. So taking advantage of your scheduler, I'm just going to pretend to schedule a post right now. I do have one that's going out later, but it's going to say, hey, these are your active times that are good on your Facebook page. And if I select Instagram, it's also going to let you know where your active times are. So really taking advantage of when these, algorithms are figuring out when your audience is most online. For us, I call it prime time. It's in the evenings, Monday through Thursday. And I've taken other chances of posting at like noon. It's like maybe people are on their phones at the lunch hour, maybe in the morning, but they never seem to do as well as when I post in the evening, which rightfully so, Facebook and Instagram is saying to me, yeah, you probably don't want to post at 10 a.m. Maybe you'll do better in the evening.
You can't do an A/B test on that, right? You have the A/B test where you can create two different posts, and then you can judge which one's the best.
An A/B, I don't know
Oh,
what that is.
well, unless they took it away.
I think most of the cases I've seen A/B testing is for headlines,
Oh, okay.
emails and things.
Oh, it's different.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, not one size fits all for everybody's Facebook page or their Instagram or Twitter. You really have to know kind of your identity and not go off of the fact of, well, so-and-so's posting at this time, it's probably going to work good for me too. Well, it might not. So really, like I was saying, you got to dive in and let this be a guide to help you figure out when to post. And also, aside from this, is being consistent. I think Bryce also mentioned that as well, is being consistent with your posts and finding that, okay, well, this obviously is working at such and such time, or I have this bracket of time that works. Stick with it. But again, if you want to venture out, feel free to do so. But again, taking advantage of the tools that are in here. I'm not going to make a post. I'm just going to go back. So yeah, and then you can obviously dive into these and see how they did in terms of reaction. So I got one scheduled for later. We have some stories up right now, and just continuing to work on what's best and what time, and again, just looking at insights and seeing what you can do to help grow that reach. So go back. All right, so I mentioned this earlier. This exact post reach is organic reach, or within post reach, there's organic and paid. As I mentioned, a nice jab at Mark Zuckerberg. And I don't like giving them money. I really, really don't. But it has helped me in the past. And I've recently done it for events. We really want to, one of the goals of our village board is to get more residents involved. They keep talking about engagement. That word is starting to make me sick. But I have to kind of understand with them and subtitles. Okay. Sorry. Again, I don't use PowerPoint. Sorry, I'm getting all these pop-ups here. I know. All right, I got them off. No captions. That was weird. So what was I talking about? Yeah, so our village board wants more engagement. And I thought, well, how can you get people excited about coming to a public information meeting that's on road construction? You're going to get about 5. You're always going to get the same 10 people, same 5 people that always want to be involved. But we got to figure out how we got to get beyond that, how we're bringing in other folks, and also folks that are not of retired age. We're finding that a lot, because usually people who are in retirement have some time and can get more involved. And folks who are like me in their mid-30s, they have kids, they have other things to do, and they just don't have time for it. But looking at it from the standpoint of when it comes to paid reach, and Bryce had touched on this, of utilizing that for your audience, right? So you want to target that specific audience, and it's going to eventually show up on their page. And they go, oh, I live 2 blocks from that street. I want to know what's going on with that construction. I think I might come to that. Or, as a lot of us here have with our cable channels, we're going to be broadcasting that anyway. So providing them that link of, hey, if you can't make it, it's being broadcasted here. So utilizing those links and also taking advantage of that paid reach once again to really help you grow your audience and your viewership as well. So as I was saying, you want to ask yourself, if you are kind of on the fence, should I make this a paid reach? Should I make it, just keep it organic? Figure out what your goal of the post is, right? So as I was saying, we had a recent public information meeting. The goal was to get people involved and get them engaged, get them to come to the building, or at least get them on Zoom and participate in a hybrid fashion. And so I thought, well, this is important, and I do have a budget that was approved. It's not a big budget, but I do have a budget that I can utilize this. So that's kind of part 2 of the question is, if you have a budget, or if you don't, how can you get said budget, right? Do you have a friends group, or can you ask to have it on your budget for next fiscal year? Really pushing to show those decision makers who finalize your budget and saying, this is important because the numbers don't lie, right? If I brought up the Meta Business Suite and I showed the paid reach, that is helping get those people engaged. As much as I don't want it, and I don't like paying the money for it, it does end up helping us from time to time. All right. Again, gonna talk a little bit on strategy, kind of repeat a few things that Bryce said, but they're all good things to be reminded of as well. So, as I was saying, you want to know your brand. As you guys saw, I'm kind of the face of the entire village of McFarland. Some of you are just the face of your media centers, or maybe you're just the face of a department. So knowing your brand is going to help you kind of extend that growth, but also you want to utilize your brand and help or start getting involved by liking, following, commenting, and inviting others to like your page. I'm not going to just go follow some National Geographic and ABC and, all these like big names. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to follow the city of Fitchburg, and I'm going to engage with them because they're my neighbors and we have a lot of things in common. Same thing, Sun Prairie. I'm going to just kind of, who do I see here that I know is around? So making sure that within your brand, kind of finding those groups and connecting with them as well. And even though there are some people here who have specifically pages for their media centers only, I still am going to go and connect with them because, once again, it's kind of extending that reach, extending your brand, and then eventually the algorithms are going to tell their audience, hey, you should maybe follow this page because you like this page. So it's definitely kind of a, you scratch your back, I scratch your back, you scratch mine. And then as well as knowing your audience. I mentioned this before. You can go to those analytics on the Meta Business Suite. You can see where you can grow within your analytics, within your audience through those analytics, but also knowing when your audience is online. That's going to be key to your posts. I've done it, as I said, for many years. I've tried to go beyond the other times, and it doesn't work. It really doesn't. So there are times, as I was mentioning, sometimes you're going to have people above you saying, just get it up, get it online. But it doesn't matter. It's still not going to get that reach. Some people don't care. So can I get you a coffee? Okay. I'm almost done, I swear. And then knowing what posts work. Not all the same posts you post maybe on your Facebook page are going to work on your Instagram. I've learned this I don't want to say the hard way, but like I will just do the exact same post that I put on Facebook. It could be a graphic instead of like an image, and it just doesn't go anywhere. The reach is terrible, and so you have to kind of think about not only just like sizing, so maybe the graphic is the only thing you have, at least making the size match what's good and compatible for that page. The 1-by-1 ratio is kind of that catch-all, but at the same time, if you're working on stories, 1-by-1 is not going to work on your stories. Same with video, right? We all have that, or most of us here have that advantage of being able to edit video either vertically or horizontally. Horizontally is kind of out, especially when it comes to Instagram, Facebook. We're moving to Reels because they're taking over that same concept that TikTok has, right? So we're trying to make everything shorter. We're trying to make things vertically and keep that audience engagement. So those are the types of posts that work. Sometimes those certain posts don't work on the other platform. Once again, you got to kind of play with it, mold with it, but know what you're seeing as a consumer is also helpful as well. And what are you liking? What are your friends liking? What are your colleagues liking? Things like that is going to help you kind of figure out that strategy for your growth. And then lastly, don't be discouraged. Social media at the end of the day is kind of feels like a popularity contest, right? And it, you know, we're talking about it at the federal level of now of like what youth age can be on certain social media, right? Because you're seeing the thumbs, you're seeing the hearts, and it's maybe not exactly what you're expecting, but you find yourself comparing. So don't be discouraged, especially if there's a post that just doesn't grow as much as you want it to. Again, you could give some money, or you just say, all right, what can I do better for next time? Can I figure out a better time to post as that? Can I make it vertical? Should I make it horizontal? Was there too much language, too many words? Figuring out all that is just going to really help mold and figure out that strategy for continuing to grow. So, she did it. If you want to connect, I do have some business cards over there as well. But I'm on LinkedIn. I'll be honest, I don't really use LinkedIn, but if you wanted to just connect and be like, hey, I have some questions, I will respond, but I just am not an active poster on LinkedIn. And then, yeah, if you're curious, you just want to get some ideas, feel free to visit our Facebook or Instagram that I manage. And I guess if anybody has any questions right now, I'm happy to kind of open up the floor. Yeah.
Like our content or our videos, like on Facebook, do you recommend like just sharing a link on Facebook, or because uploading something to Facebook it just takes a really long time and sometimes it doesn't always work. Share a link or just post it directly to?
Sort of like to your website or what link?
To Facebook. Well, a link to like our YouTube page.
Yep.
Or, we create the video and we post that to our YouTube. But as far as Facebook goes, and we want people to engage with that, do you recommend just sharing the link to Facebook or posting it directly to?
Yeah, that's a great question. And actually, we just experienced this the other day. It honestly depends. You're probably not going to want to upload an hour-long talk show directly to Facebook. You definitely want to send your users and your audience to your YouTube channel. Also thinking about it is that's another way of growth, right? You can get them to go to your YouTube channel, give them a thumbs up, they're going to now subscribe to you, right? But, and just a side note from that, if you're ever throwing links in Facebook, as soon as the preview pops up, get rid of that link. Get rid of that ugly link, because then you just have, that was one of the first things I learned out of social media management is something about ugly URLs makes people want to scroll past them. So taking advantage of that. So again, it kind of depends. If it's a short video, maybe you can just upload it directly to Facebook and you have that opportunity to kind of merge those two types of content together, and then looking at the analytics, as a combined thing. So as I was saying, we just dealt with that the other day. We had posted a link to our YouTube channel of, what was it, like a 4-minute video-ish? Yeah, so, and within the first hour, it didn't go anywhere. And I posted it at the time it recommended, things like that. And I thought, all right, let's see what it does if I quickly delete it and upload it again. I found that I had that hour, right? It didn't go anywhere, so I felt like I was like, okay, I think I'm in the clear. No one saw this yet, so let's take 2, right? And it did much better. So again, just kind of playing around with that. If it's shorter, yes, maybe go that route, but it totally depends. Yeah.
Or like hiring, for example. If you have sort of a consistent video presence, if you're putting out little things, it's worth it to have that repository of a YouTube channel. So, for example, if somebody's looking to see and sees one of your YouTube videos, chances are they're going to keep looking at your stuff if they have an interest in working for you, whatever, and they'll get a better, deeper dive into your engagement. I think if nothing else, it's a great repository if you have enough content to keep alive all the time instead of just being gone as soon as the post fades.
I would certainly say there's 2 different audiences. What we experience is Facebook is more of the, like, you know, older female demographic, you know, they're sharing their police department. But I would 100% agree, because our YouTube channel is great for once someone finds that whole catalog, they got everything at their fingertips, because Facebook just isn't that friendly to video content.
Right.
So very interesting
Yep,
stuff.
absolutely. And that's where I feel like Instagram also helps with that video content. If you have some shorter things, again, they're taking the reels on as well, so now it's that whole competitiveness with TikTok. Which isn't a bad thing. TikTok obviously has changed the world in the past 3 years, so let's kind of embrace that and see where things go. So, yeah.
I've had good luck with Facebook. I do Facebook Live for a 2-hour show, and it stays on there, but it's fine. But
Yeah, I mean, they'll it has a video portion of
Right.
the profile where it'll keep it.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Real
Yes. Nick.
Can you talk a little bit about post frequency? Because I've heard the idea that if you oversaturate your timeline, it might decrease your reach.
Absolutely. Yes. I think so. I am a 1 post a day, maybe 2, depending on how much is coming at me. It is hard being kind of that one voice, but I have things queued up in my head.
It should be online, but I have it queued up for probably the next 2-3 weeks. And kind of just balancing when the importance is, like hydrant flushing. It's great stuff, right? But I don't need to tell people about it for about 2 more weeks, so that can go a little bit later. We just had an event last night, so I'm posting those photos sooner. So, but to go back to your question, finding that balance and probably just figuring out 1 or 2 times a day. That's all you need. And as you see on the analytics of Meta, they're not saying like, hey, you have all of these different times you can post. They're giving you 1, and that's it. So taking advantage of that. And if you want to play around, post twice, post 3 times, see what happens. I'm going to say probably 1 or 2 of those, of the 3, if you will, are definitely not going to go as far as you would expect all of them to go. Good question. Yeah.
Analytics that are available to sell what your station is doing for the community. I mean, we're increasing our YouTube subscribers by 60 every month lately.
Yeah, it's amazing.
And now that we're hitting a quarter of our population is now a subscriber, which isn't nothing. But I can't find out if they're actually our population or grandpa up north. But it's
Either way, a subscriber, right?
Yeah.
And I would say, obviously I didn't really touch a lot on YouTube here, well, really at all, but taking advantage of certain things that you do have on YouTube and making them into shorts. I guess not YouTube shorts. You could make them YouTube shorts, but I realize that's kind of a new thing as well. But kind of like a teaser. And then utilizing that for your different platforms as well. That's kind of, once again, learning to ebb and flow with the different types of content that works on the different types of platforms. So, and then redirecting them. Hey, subscribe, or hey, you want to see this whole thing? Just send them that way, and then you continue to get more, more reach. Yeah.
Is there like 1 or 2 like specific things that you recognize in managing Facebook pages that you're like, that's made a big difference, because there's a lot of analytics, and I'm not the only one that manages our pages, and if there's something I can bring to them being like, hey, like the time of day that you post, or like such and such, like is there anything that comes to the top of your head like that is more impactful than others maybe?
Yeah, absolutely. I would say gut reaction to that question is graphics or images over text. Think about yourself as a consumer. What are you looking at? Are you stopping and reading every post? Probably not. Are you? And that's also in conjunction, if you are making a graphic, how many words are on that? You really need to have that attention. You need to think about your attention span as yourself, and then representing that with your work. And then also just a side plug of making sure that it's ADA compliant, right? So sometimes we will have these graphics, but I will still make sure to put the text there in case they have a color blindness or they have just a vision impairment, right? That's something that I'm continuously looking into learning and making sure is better for our content, because I saw this very powerful video of what like a website reader does. And even with hashtags, if you're not capitalizing every word within the hashtag, a screen reader is not going to know how to say that to someone who relies on that, right? So just thinking about that as well. So I feel like I kind of was like bouncing on, like, don't use a lot of text, but at the same time, do have that text so you have your ADA compliance as well. So
I want to piggyback off of that. We talk about photo voice in class, and essentially what that means is look at your organization, look at your community. How can you represent that with just images, visually, no text at all? What would create sort of a visual definition of who you are within your community? And see what you come up with, and see what that can do to inform how you approach everything else. Especially because, like I say, things are getting more visual than text driven.
Real quick. So with post reach, does that just count posts I post on my page, or does it also count posts that I share to another page? I mean, will those numbers count too?
So if you're sharing somebody else's post,
So I'd be sharing my post, I post my post on my page.
yep,
And then I share that post from my page to a group,
okay,
community group.
Yep.
So let's say the community group has 3,000 views and my page has 2,000. Would the analytics show me just 2,000, or would it show me 5,000?
yeah, so the latter pretty much. It will go back to that organic post. But if you're trying to, I guess, say, because I know you run WCM, say you post something on WCM, but then you post something from, or you share something from ACM? You're giving ACM pretty much all those analytics. Yeah. You still will have some of that insight as well of people who saw your post, because, right, it's still linked to you, but you're almost kind of like doubling their view. But at the same time, that's how social media works. The whole I scratch your back, you scratch mine kind of concept. Yeah.
Earlier was brought up about spam, and so I work for a city as well, and we run into issues of, especially like ticket sales for something.
Yep.
People jump on, and spam jumps on, it's like, hey, I have tickets, and people try to sell to them, and then they're fake. Do you have anything that battles spam for that, or like live streaming a lot of times? Like, hey, we're live streaming something, then all of a sudden it's Sports 4K says, hey, click on this link, and it's obviously not. But we can't really delete them either, because if it is a real person, we can't silence someone's voice as a city organization.
Yeah, so I guess thankfully I haven't really dealt with too much spam. I think we're still relatively small enough, or I don't know what it is, but I haven't fallen into that spot. But when it comes to like YouTube, kind of making that decision if with those live comments, if you need to delete it or kick that person off your feed, you got to look at your social media policies. And if you don't have one, make one, because otherwise it could hurt you in the long term. So I think, utilizing that judgment, and yes, that's that freedom of speech thing, especially if it is a real person, but it comes off as a bot. It is kind of that fine line, but I think ultimately your gut's going to tell you what's appropriate and what's not. And then if you're like, you know what, we're getting too much of this, and I'm going to just continue using YouTube. We're getting too many of these live comments that are inappropriate or just not helpful towards the content that's being shown. Just turn it off. I mean, yes, that sucks that you can't get those people to engage that want to actually appropriately engage, but sometimes you gotta figure out that route. But I would say look at your social media, your strategy and policy from that standpoint. So, and then also if you guys don't have a social media archive, make sure you have that too. We use Archive Social. It is a pretty penny, I will say that, but once again, we've had people delete posts that actually our police department had to go to and utilize it for evidence. So making sure that you're always continuing to have that archived in some other way. So.
And I can also use Freedom Information Act to request things too. So.
Okay, yeah. So.
QR code.
Yes. Make sure you scan your QR code to give Bryce and I some feedback, what you thought. Make sure you're doing that with all your sessions today. And if you have any questions, again, I'll be here all conference. So let me know if you want to connect. And Bryce, any other final words? No. Okay. Thank you so much.